Hey friends, happy Thursday. Thanks for joining us for Unscripted on 13 Plus. I'm Anna Orsini.
And I'm Carson Courier. Thank you for joining us. A busy week. We've been saying that for the past couple of days, but honestly, we are just tracking some late breaking news across the country with these school protests that we are seeing not only here at home, but really the big story this morning is what happened at UCLA. We know it was a very tense scene on campus overnight as police moved in to clear out encampments that they deemed an unlawful assembly. We know UCLA repeatedly called for people to disperse or face arrest. And this is essentially what happened when a lot of people didn't leave.
Yeah, and it's just an absolute mess there on campus right now. This is video from this morning around 3 o'clock when police started to move in and break up that encampment. But right now they're continuing the cleanup efforts. A lot of stuff there on campus, tents, materials, plywood, just all the different things that made up that encampment. The California Highway Patrol said at least 132 people were arrested. Now, whether they'll be charged or released is unknown. That's going to be up to UCLA police to decide. CHP said that 250 officers were involved, so that's about one officer for every protester that they believed was in the encampment. They also confirmed that flashbangs were used to try and get the attention of the crowd and get students to disperse. So really kind of an escalation there overnight on UCLA's campus. Again, they've broken up that encampment. They're starting to clear it out, move all the pieces of metal, plywood, everything out this morning. But just kind of an escalation that you don't want to see. But at this point, I feel like the campus really felt like they didn't have any other choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you can see here, a lot of these students just kind of seeming like they weren't expecting this, which is kind of a little strange considering how many warnings that police gave. I know here at the University of Arizona, we talked a lot about how the police kind of showed up and they're like, hey, you have to leave, you have to leave. And then this encampment at UCLA wasn't really invaded for days after all the other ones across the nation.
Absolutely, yeah. And they gave them time, they gave them warning, and then they finally moved in. And UCLA kind of under fire as well because the UCLA Police Department, they said that things started to escalate there. There was tension, and UCLA police didn't move in until about 2 hours after things started to get violent. So we're also getting a better look today just at how much of an impact this has had across the country. According to the Associated Press, there have been at least 38 incidents since April 17th. Again, the first one was at Columbia. Arrests have been made at campus protests across the United States. So those figures found more than 1,600 people have been arrested, again, since April 18th at 30 different schools.
President Biden also weighed in this morning. It was the first time he's spoken extensively about the college protests, so we do want to take a listen here.
There should be no place on any campus, no place in America for anti-Semitism or threats of violence against Jewish students. There is no place for hate speech or violence of any kind, whether it's anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or discrimination against Arab Americans or Palestinian Americans. We are not an authoritarian nation where we silence people or squash dissent. The American people are heard. In fact, peaceful protest is in the best tradition of how Americans respond to consequential issues. But, neither are we a lawless country.
Now, of course, we'll continue to keep an eye on these protests today, but we also wanted to make you aware of just something else that's happening today. President Biden will be meeting with the families of the 4 law enforcement officers who were killed in North Carolina this week, as well as the officers who were wounded in that shooting. The 4 officers, including 1 deputy U.S. Marshal, were killed on Monday.
They were attempting to serve a warrant for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. According to the local police chief, the officers were met with gunfire from a high-powered rifle. The officers returned fire and fatally shot the suspect. Following the shooting, Biden issued a statement mourning the 4 officers who died, whom he called heroes, while making the case for more funding for police departments and a ban on assault weapons.
And something else that we're keeping an eye on today closer to home, here in Arizona, Governor Hobbs expected to sign a repeal of the 1864 near total ban on abortion. It comes 3 weeks after the law was revived by the state Supreme Court. Yesterday, the state Senate narrowly voted in favor of a House bill to replace it with the 2022 15-week abortion ban law. Now, Planned Parenthood says it's working to make sure there's no pause in abortion services. Yesterday, the organization did file a motion asking Arizona's Supreme Court to hold off on issuing a final order in the case that reactivates the 1864 law until the legislature's repeal can take effect. So, of course, another just big conversation that we've had recently around abortion rights, reproductive rights here in the state of Arizona. So we'll, of course, keep you updated on air and online with any developments that come out of that.
And taking a live look outside on a Thursday morning, kind of more of the same. Honestly, we've been talking about the sunshine, the gorgeous temperatures. Honestly, no major changes, but actually a cool down on the way, which is very exciting. 13 First Alert forecaster Allie Potter here with us this morning. And Allie, this is really the time of year. I mean, some would say it's a little warm, but it's the time where we love Arizona, right? It's expected a little bit.
I know, and this is why we live here.
I'd rather be warm than freezing.
I
Right.
know,
Any day of the
me
week.
too.
And I know some people are like, yeah, but the winds, because we did deal with some
Yeah.
gusty winds yesterday. We're dealing with upper, more than above normal temperatures. But it's like, come on.
It's not that
You know,
bad.
I did think
It's
about
really
that
nice.
yesterday when I walked outside and it was breezy though, and it's
Yeah.
hot. I'm like,
It feels
this
nice.
feels a little fire season-ish.
Oh.
That was it's the Oregon trauma. Anytime that you feel like hot weather with wind, you're like,
Okay,
this
gotcha.
historically does not go well.
No.
No.
But not a big concern right now.
Right. No,
Okay,
we're
good.
not. So we're good. We don't have any warnings or advisories, nothing. We're not dealing with any gusty winds. On Sunday, we will be.
Okay.
But we're doing with like a cool down. And I say cool down because it's like 2 degrees.
Cool. We'll take what we
Cool.
can get.
It's going to be very cool.
Frigid
you know?
outside.
It's the 80s, though. We'll take it, right? 75 degrees right now in Tucson, 67 for Sierra Vista, 69 in Wilcox, 72 for Safford, 77 if you are in the Marana area. Here's our temp change, 1 degree than what we were just 24 hours ago in Tucson. 2 Sierra Vista, 3 for Sassabee, 2 if you're in the Sells area. Pretty much 2 or 3 degrees across the board, cooler than what we were just 24 hours ago. The big 8-9 on the board for today. The low 90s, though, continue throughout the weekend. Sunday, 90, but 86 on Monday. Really nice, in fact. Really, then we go below where we should be this time of the year. This ridge of high pressure is why we're on the warmer side today. But then, of course, the trough to the north is going to start to cool us down, bring us those gusty winds. And then, of course, though, we're not going to see any rain from that. We'll see those gusty winds, though, by Sunday. And again, but no rain on tap, unfortunately, though. Those gusty winds starting to creep on in, though, by the weekend, but really jumping up by Sunday, 31 miles per hour. 12, 16, and then 20 mile per hour wind speeds, though, as we head into Wednesday. A live look here on Tumamoc Hill. Folks are out and about, and why shouldn't they be? Really nice temperatures that they're dealing with now in the mid-70s. Lots of sunshine. They're going to go hiking today. Enjoy the sunshine. 83 by noon, 86 by 2, 89 by 4. By 6 o'clock, we'll see 88 degrees. Again, watch out for those snakes. They are out and about. Today's forecast, 89 if you're in Tucson, 81 Nogales, 80 for Sierra Vista, Douglas, 83 degrees. So lots of sunshine in the mix for everybody. So enjoy it. Let's talk about Cinco de Mayo.
Let's do it.
This weekend on Sunday by
goodness.
noon, 87 degrees.
know that.
Oh, what, on Sunday?
Yeah.
Carson's like, gosh,
is
like,
on
you're already
Sunday.
dreading
No.
Monday, huh?
Yeah, I might be
I
a little
know.
sick on Monday.
Hey, but I'm working with you guys on Monday. You have to be
Perfect.
there.
Well, I'll be there. I'll just be
Carson's
a little
allergies are
tired.
going to hit extra hard.
Oh, they're going to be like,
yeah.
I'm just,
Poor thing. Big hike planned on Sunday for Carson.
extra Tylenol.
Yeah.
By 3 o'clock, though, 90 degrees by 6 o'clock. 82, really nice day, though. But it's going to be a little bit on the gusty side, so
Okay.
hang on to your beverages on Cinco de Mayo. Here's a look at that 13 First Alert 7-day forecast. 89 degrees today, 91 by Friday. Saturday, 92, breezy conditions on Sunday. 86, though, on your Monday, 90 by Tuesday. Very consistent, though, after we head into early next week.
Okay, perfect.
Cinco
Well,
de Mayo.
yeah, crazy. It's
I
already that
honestly
time of the
didn't
year.
even realize.
Well,
I
there
mean,
you
it
go.
makes sense because it's May 2nd.
Well,
so
wait,
the 5th.
May- no.
Well,
Is it not
God.
May 2nd?
the 5th.
Today.
Oh,
Today.
today. Yes, yes.
Oh my goodness,
Carson,
friends.
yes.
I know May 5th.
I
is
thought you
Cinco de
were saying
Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo was on May 2nd.
May 2nd. I was like,
So no.
So you took Spanish, right?
You guys, I
no,
know
we're
when
all on
Cinco
the
de
same
Mayo
page.
is.
Okay, we get
All
it
on the
now.
same page.
Okay. Valerie's even
Gonna be
laughing.
kind of breezy on Cinco de Mayo. That's the big takeaway from this. Allie,
Right. Yes.
thank
It'll
you
be
so
nice.
much.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Everyone knows
Allie.
it's May 5th now.
Okay,
God,
yes.
we're all on the same page. Thank you so much, Allie. Well, we're going to go ahead and bring in a special guest here with us today, Valerie Cavazos, taking a look at one of the stories that she's been working really hard on. I know that me and you talked about this the other day at length just about the amount of research, data gathering that you had to do for this story, and it impacts anybody who really has a student that's at a school in the state of Arizona.
Right, K through 12. So, but we are dealing with K through 8. So basically, every single time that these grades come out, these school grades that
Okay.
are not just, it's not students, but the actual school themselves, we will look at them and just see what are these trends. But because the pandemic, there's been a lot of
Yeah.
discussion about how kids are struggling. So as we were really digging into the data, and we're talking a lot of data. So we covered 5 years. That's going to the School Board of Education, the State Board of Education, because that's who issues the grades. So they have a lot of data that we have to go get. And then also the state has the proficiency scores, things like that. So we're talking thousands of schools in
Yeah.
the state of Arizona. So we bring it in. I am a data journalist, and we have to bring this all in to our programs, and I use a number of them. And we discovered something that we were not expecting. And it was one school that really kind of just became a sort of a red flag. It jumped off the page, and that was Safford K-8.
Okay.
It jumped 2 grades in 1 year, which is highly, actually more than that. It went from an F to a B. So that's highly unlikely considering what is happening, even though some of the schools have ESSER dollars or whatever, but 1 year time. So we started looking into that, and we realized that the proficiency scores were actually very, very low. And so why then would it go
Yeah.
from an F to a B? So we do have an investigation that is running tonight. So we looked at all of the schools, all K through 8 in Pima County and Maricopa County. That's 80% of our schools.
Okay, yeah.
We only tackled really the districts. We kind of didn't want to bring in the charter schools as well. I will probably do that later, but at this point, it was just the major districts in Pima County is what we're starting with. We have a friend.
We
here.
do have
We
a
have a
friend, and
fly.
it's a big friend. I'm not
Yes.
gonna lie.
and,
It's a
and
very big friend.
if you see it going through,
Yeah.
that's why we're going like this.
They're like, what are they
So-
doing?
So anyway, I just wanted to show your viewers just a little piece of this, just to get it started, and it's going to air tonight
Okay.
in our 6 o'clock show.
Perfect.
Let's go ahead and watch that.
The Arizona Board of Education gives grades from A to F to all Arizona schools. For elementary and middle schools, scores are primarily based on proficiency in standardized testing, 30%, and the growth, 50%. Safford K-8 in Tucson had been an F school in 2019, scoring 7 points in proficiency. It's now a B school in 2023, still scoring only 7 proficiency points. State Superintendent Tom Horn sits on the board.
And now they're a B. Did they deserve that? Their proficiency score is still in the F range.
Right. So what happened is in COVID, the proficiency went way down. So now it's easy to make progress. So the next year, the schools got very high grades for their growth because they're coming from a low base.
Growth is the operative word here. After digging through data and state documents, we discovered it boiled down to a change in the rule. The growth score had been based on a 3-year average in proficiency, but when the pandemic hit, it put a pause on standardized testing.
So what was eliminated was that growth to target.
Yeah, because we don't have a 3-year average now.
Right.
So the board changed the rule, bending the curve from 3 years to 1 in 2021.
We explain what happened at Safford K-8. Then we also discovered that there were a number of schools that jumped 2 or more grades. So we identify them. It's really important, I think, for parents to understand these school grades.
Yeah.
It's 1 grade, so there's many factors that go into it. But parents need to know this because as they're considering what school that they want to send their children, because we're an open enrollment state,
Yeah.
and so that's why those schools are very important, not only to the schools themselves. Hey, you're doing a good job, keep up the good work, or you're not. So you need to kind of pull up the
Yeah.
the bar. And so in this particular case, we are really looking at what really should parents know. I asked the question of the state superintendent, again, a board member as well, but I asked him, can the grades be trusted? And
That's what my immediate thought was. These parents may be saying, oh my goodness, my child's schooled to B. That's great.
Well, I think you just take it at face value. I
Yeah.
think that every parent has seen those posters. You see like the B, A school, whatever, and you're just like, oh, that's great. And then you go about your day. I don't think you realize that that letter grade actually impacts your student and how they're learning and what they're learning and if they're going to be prepared for the next level of learning.
right. So there's two, as I explained there. There's proficiency and growth. And one of the things I did ask, it's not in my piece here, but we can discuss
Yeah.
this here, is one of the things I did ask is why is proficiency only 30% and growth 50%?
Yeah.
Why isn't that flipped around? So because the growth points are based on the proficiency points, right?
Yeah.
So I did ask the superintendent that as well, and he agreed. It should be flipped.
Yeah.
And so that's why one of the biggest questions that I had was, well, parents don't know this.
Right.
So what can be done to then make sure? So I said, well, why don't you have two different grades? And so you can have a grade for growth and then a grade for proficiency, and then just let the parents decide. Because he said some parents want to go to a school where there's a lot of growth, and so it's not stagnant. Even though the proficiency scores may be lower. Some of them care more about the proficiency scores.
Yeah.
So let the parents decide that. So we'll see what happens. And then I also asked the question, what's next? Because they had a rule change. So what's next? Does it go back? Do we change the rules again? And anybody who deals with data, anytime that you change all the parameters, it's very hard to track a trend.
Yeah.
And that was one of the issues that we had here as well, as I was going through all of the data. So we did check Maricopa County as well. So it was Pima County, the big districts. We also checked Maricopa County, same thing. So that covers 80% of the schools in the state. So that meant this was a statewide issue. And so it was very interesting conversation, again, because Tom Horn is sitting on the board as well as being the superintendent. What happens this year is that they are taking the same test and it's the same rules. What happens in 2025, I don't know. So, and they don't know either. They haven't made that decision yet. What could happen is those bumps in the grade could go right back down again. So those
Okay.
B schools,
Or no F
even
schools.
next year could be, hopefully they've made some progress.
Yeah.
But if they didn't make enough progress, you will see some of those schools that were like, C's and B's drop back down to maybe, D's and possibly F's. One last thing is when we were doing, there's a baseline of what is considered then an A school, B school, So there's a baseline for F school using Safford KA, because they were really at the bottom there. Using that as the line, the bar, if they didn't change everything around, there would have been about 14 or so F schools. So,
Yikes.
yeah, so that's why some of these changes happen. Sometimes, you might look at it and say, but, schools were not, no one's to blame in this. The
Yeah.
pandemic is
Yeah.
what created all of this disruption and a drop in the learning. But at the same time, though, do we need to get back to where we were? And if you kind of like bend this curve, that's what this is called.
Yeah.
If you bend this curve, then I think, and I asked the Pima County superintendent, isn't that a false sense of success?
Yeah.
And he did agree. That
Okay.
was, it was that.
Because I think if you change it to make it a B school, the concern is, are my students still learning in an F school kind of environment?
Right.
Yeah.
And when are they going to get back to that level? So
Exactly.
don't change the bar. Don't.
Right.
Why change the line? Why not just
Yeah.
let everybody know? Okay, we were in a pandemic. Don't panic.
Right.
Even though
Yeah.
your school has dropped, don't worry about it. We'll get them back up. And that was the argument that we had. That was one of the concerns. And
Okay.
honestly, the state superintendent Tom Horn did agree, and he
Yeah.
was like, yeah, you kind of shouldn't do that, especially with data.
For sure.
I deal with data all the time.
Well, and I
so.
think that's the best part about the story is so many numbers go into this and so much data that like the normal person, like me and Carson, we wouldn't go through, we wouldn't know how to consume. And so all of that's broken down so that parents can really understand what those numbers mean and how they impact their kids.
Right, and that was a thing though too. I even said to him, parents don't know this. How do you expect them to go and get all of that data? Here's another thing that was very interesting. When I was asking, I have a lot of insiders in education, and they kind of fill me in. They give me background. They'll tell me, hey, Val, no, that's not anything, forget about that. So they're kind of consultants. And so in this particular case, I asked a number of leaders. They have no idea how all of this was coming down. They knew maybe their individual districts, but they were wondering, what's the algorithm? What are the parameters? What's
Something's
the
different
criteria?
here. Yeah.
Something's different. They knew it was different, but they really didn't. I don't know whether they had time to look at it. Some of them benefited from it, but you have a lot of schools that are A schools, and they're at a higher range. And as he said, when all of this changed, those who are on the lower range, they're the ones who are going to benefit the most. And the reason why, and I'll just really quick math.
Yeah. No, you're fine.
So the reason why is if you go from say like a 3 to a 6, that's 100% increase. But the larger the number, the bigger the number. If you go from a like 40 to 44, that's a 10% increase. So this is the difference. So when you have those top tier schools and the A and B schools, it is much harder for them to have growth. So, but all those bottom schools, they're getting 50%, 100% increase. They're getting the maximum amount of growth points. So that's what happened here as well.
Okay.
So if your school, just bottom line, if your school was an A and B school, traditionally, nothing really has changed. And so, they might bump down a little bit, but they're just going to stay A and B schools. So you don't have to really worry about that with parents. But if it was traditionally a C, D, and F, you may want to go in and look into that. Tonight, we will show you where to go in our story to actually look and see your particular school, your child's school, and how they performed, and there is a place to go.
Okay, perfect. I think a lot of parents are going to have the laptops open. They want to know if they're being like bamboozled by the school, a lot of parents wanting to know. So, and what time is this airing tonight?
It is in the 6 o'clock show.
6 o'clock.
Perfect.
We look
Looking
forward to seeing it. Thank you, Val.
Thank you so much,
Appreciate
Val.
it. We'll take a live look outside one more time on your Thursday. Beautiful conditions out there, 89 degrees. Not too gusty until, again, Carson's favorite holiday, Cinco de Mayo on Sunday. Going to be a little bit breezy out there. Other than that, a beautiful day ahead of you. Make sure that you have our app. Make sure that you tune into our 6 o'clock newscast tonight as well.
Absolutely. I'm
and
looking
watch-
forward to that.
Just what Val does is so impressive. I couldn't go through all those numbers, but just figuring out these issues, and of course it impacts every kid's education if they're going to school here in Southern Arizona. So make sure you tune in for that. And thanks so much for joining us for Unscripted on 13+.
Yeah, have a great day. Thanks for joining us. Tune in tomorrow.